The air inside the Hall of Holy Ground Ministries was thick. Not with the Holy Spirit, but with a cloying scent of cheap incense and the sweat of 5,000 desperate souls. Outside, a stormy Sunday morning battered the windows, a dramatic soundtrack to the theater playing out within. But inside, all eyes were fixed on the woman on the stage, the woman they called Mamacita, prophetess. Patricia moved across the stage like a shadow, her white robes flowing around her. They said she could pierce a man's soul with a single glance, that her touch could heal the sick and raise the fallen. Her followers, a sea of faces etched with hope and pain, believed her every word. They didn't know that what they felt wasn't divine light. It was the cold, predatory calculation of something that had long ago traded its humanity for a throne built on lies. In the third row sat Elizabeth. Unlike the weeping masses around her, Elizabeth remained unnervingly still, her arms crossed over her chest. Just moments ago, a man, supposedly crippled for a decade, had leapt from his wheelchair at Patricia's touch. The crowd erupted in a frenzy of praise and worship, but Elizabeth felt a chill of disgust crawl up her spine. She had seen that same man just 2 days ago, sprinting through the local market to catch a bus. A stage play, she whispered to herself, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. A theater of ghosts. The prophetess, on stage, this weaver of illusions, had not always been a monster. Once, she was a girl of light, the pride of a God-fearing home. Patricia, the girl with a voice like an angel and a heart full of scripture. But the hunger for impact, for influence, is a dangerous thing. It can twist the purest intentions into something unrecognizable. Years ago, at a grand conference of power pastors, she had met a man named Benji. He was charismatic, draped in expensive suits, and he spoke of power, not of grace. He saw the ambition burning in Patricia's eyes and offered her not a path of righteousness, but a shortcut. Godliness is slow. Benji had hissed in her ear over the roar of the choir. Sacrifice is fast. He spoke of ancient powers, of rituals that could grant influence beyond imagination. That night, in a ceremony shrouded in secrecy, a ritual that cost Patricia her ability to ever carry life in her own womb, she made a deal. She donned a dark cloak of influence, a spiritual garment that promised her everything she ever wanted, and the promises were kept. Her small ministry exploded. Wealth poured in from every corner of the continent. Presidents and business moguls sought her counsel. She became Mamacita, a name whispered with reverence and fear. But the price was a slow, creeping transformation that began in the very marrow of her bones. The warmth in her smile was replaced by a calculated gleam. Her prayers, once heartfelt, became hollow incantations. She had gained the world, but her soul was slowly, surely, being devoured. Back in the third row, Elizabeth's resolve hardened. She had come here not as a believer, but as a journalist. Her editor had dismissed the story as a wild goose chase, another tale of a televangelist fleecing her flock. But Elizabeth's grandmother had always said, where there is too much smoke, the fire is not burning wood. But the truth, Elizabeth had followed the smoke trail all the way to Patricia's ministry, and now she could feel the inferno. After the service, Elizabeth navigated the adoring crowds, making her way backstage. She didn't have an appointment, but she had something better, a name. Benji. She found one of Patricia's senior ushers, a man whose eyes held the same flicker of doubt she saw in her own. "I need to see the prophetess," she said, her voice firm. "Tell her it's about Benji!" The usher's face paled. He nodded and disappeared behind a heavy velvet curtain. Minutes later, she was ushered into a lavishly decorated office. Patricia sat behind a massive mahogany desk, her white robes exchanged for a silk gown. The air was cold, sterile. "Who are you?" Patricia's voice was smooth, but laced with steel. "My name is Elizabeth, and I know about the shortcut you took," Elizabeth said, her heart pounding. She watched Patricia's mask of serene holiness begin to crack. The prophetess's eyes, those famous eyes that could supposedly see into souls, narrowed. For the first time in a long time, Mamacita was the one being seen. "You know nothing," Patricia spat, her voice losing its polished edge. "I know about Benji," Elizabeth continued, pressing her advantage. "I know about the ritual, I know about the price you paid, and I know that the miracles out there are nothing but cheap tricks. That man in the wheelchair, his name is Samuel. He works at the market. He's a good runner. A silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. Patricia's carefully constructed world was trembling. The dark cloak of influence felt less like a garment of power and more like a shroud. In Elizabeth's unflinching gaze, she saw a reflection of the girl she used to be, a girl who believed in truth, not trickery. "What do you want?" Patricia finally asked, her voice a mere whisper. The power, the arrogance, it had all evaporated. "I want the truth to come out," Elizabeth said simply. "These people out there, they deserve better than a theater of ghosts. They deserve real hope, not a performance." That night, Elizabeth wrote her story. It wasn't just it was a tale of caution, a modern folk tale about the hunger for power and the true cost of a shortcut. She wrote about Patricia, the girl of light, who became a shadow. She wrote about Benji, the peddler of false promises. And she read about the 5,000 souls searching for a miracle in a hole filled with smoke and mirrors. The article was published. The fallout was immediate and immense. The whole of Holy Ground Ministries crumbled. The crowds vanished. The empire built on deception turned to dust. Patricia, Mama Cieto, disappeared from the public eye. Some say she fled the country with what money she had left. Others whisper that she returned to her village, a broken woman stripped of her power, seeking the light she had so carelessly traded away. And Elizabeth, she continued to write, to seek out the truth in the shadows. She knew that the world was full of false prophets and shortcuts, but she also knew that for every theater of ghosts, there was someone in the third row, watching, waiting, and willing to speak the truth. Because true power isn't found in a grand performance or a secret ritual. It's found in the quiet, unyielding courage to shine a light into the darkness. This story serves as a powerful reminder for all of us. It's easy to be swayed by charismatic figures who promise quick fixes and easy answers. But true growth, true faith, and true strength are often built slowly, with honesty and integrity. It's a journey, not a shortcut. If you or someone you know is struggling, remember that real help is available. Reaching out to a licensed counselor, a trusted community leader, or a mental health professional is a sign of true strength. There is always hope, and you don't have to walk your path alone. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that makes you think. See you next time. Behind Patricia's golden mansion, nestled on the edge of her so-called holy ground, flowed a river that never seemed to sleep. It was a silent witness to the secrets kept under the cloak of night. Every midnight, as her devoted congregants clutched their little bottles of miracle oil, praying for breakthroughs they'd already paid for, Patricia would make her own pilgrimage. She'd slip away from the opulence, her silk robes trailing behind her, and descend into the cool, black water of the river. There, in the murky depths, a transformation would occur. The smooth human skin would begin to itch, to burn, and then to tear away, revealing what lay beneath. Shimmering, iridescent scales, like 1,000 captured rainbows, covered her true form. For Patricia was not just she was a hybrid, a creature of two worlds, half woman, half serpent. She was an emissary, a high-ranking priestess of the marine kingdom. Down in the silent, swirling currents, she wasn't alone. She met with others like her. Other shepherds who had long ago traded their flocks for scales and their souls for power. They were a council of deceivers, sharing twisted wisdom and dark strategies, refining their methods for keeping the masses above bound in chains of false hope and financial desperation. The source of Patricia's power was a gift from her monarch, the Marine Queen. It was the all-seeing eye, an artifact of immense clairvoyant ability. But this gift came at a terrible price. In return, Patricia had to feed the insatiable hunger of her kingdom, and its preferred meal, the hope, the dreams, and the hard-earned wealth of the broken and the desperate who flocked to her church. Patricia's miracles weren't divine interventions. They were masterpieces of psychological warfare, carefully constructed illusions designed to prey on the vulnerable. Sikayet temmed the mechanics of deceit. One of her most effective tools was the mirrors of life. She sold these blessed, ornate mirrors to her followers, instructing them to speak their deepest desires and fears to their reflections each day. She promised that God would hear them through the glass, but in reality, these were scrying tools. Portals connected to her own obsidian mirror back at the mansion. Every night, while her followers slept, Patricia would peer into their lives. She watched them in their most private moments, in their bedrooms, listening to their arguments, their confessions, their secret anxieties. So when she stood on the pulpit on Sunday morning and delivered a shockingly accurate prophecy about a copeless marital spat or a hidden financial worry, it wasn't God speaking through her. It was the data she had stolen from their vanity tables. She had an almost animalistic sense for fear. One day, a young, bright-eyed graduate named Obiora came to her, his future uncertain. Patricia looked at him and didn't see a person. She saw prey. She could smell the fear on him like a predator smells blood. She set him down, her voice a comforting, hypnotic purr. "My son," she said, her eyes full of false sympathy. "Your life battery is critically low. It's almost depleted." The terror in Obiora's eyes was all the confirmation she needed. She told him the only solution was a significant spiritual act, the sacrifice of a cow. Of course she made it easy for him. No need to bring an actual animal to the church. A simple, massive wire transfer would suffice. That cow paid for the new, gleaming marble flooring in her second mansion, a testament to Obiora's stolen future. Then there was her famous holy water. Her followers would line up for hours, clutching jerry cans, believing they were receiving water straight from a sacred spring, blessed by Patricia's touch. In reality, it was tap water from the municipal supply, with a little twist. Her assistants would spike each batch with a carefully measured amount of salt and sugar. It was just enough to alter the taste, to make it feel different, special. They were convinced a molecular miracle had occurred right in their plastic cans, a sign of God's favor. But while Patricia built her empire on lies, a quiet storm was gathering. In the middle of her sermon, Patricia suddenly stopped. A hush fell over the thousands of congregants. Her eyes, which usually shone with a warm, motherly light, seemed to change under the bright stage lights. As Elizabeth stood before her, Patricia leaned in close, a predator sizing up a challenger. The air around her shifted. It was a mix of mud, salt, and something ancient, like old death, she whispered, her voice a venomous hiss meant only for Elizabeth's ear. "The water is deep, child. Some secrets have teeth. Do not drown trying to find the bottom." It was a threat, a clear and chilling warning to back off. But Elizabeth was not afraid of the dark. She was not intimidated by threats veiled in poetic language. She was armed with the most powerful weapon of all, the light of the truth. She hadn't come to fight with prayers or spiritual warfare alone. She fought with evidence. For months, she had been documenting everything. The actors hired to fake healings and writhe on the floor, the complex web of offshore accounts where the sacrifices were laundered, and most damning of all, the secret midnight trips to the river. She had photographs, bank statements, and sworn testimonies. The images of Patricia's staged miracles to crippled man seen walking perfectly fine an hour later. The blind woman driving her own car spread like a virus across social media and news outlets. The untouchable prophetess could only watch as her empire of glass, built on shattered lives, finally shattered itself. In the aftermath, Elizabeth stood before the remaining, broken congregation. They were lost, confused, their faith in ruins, but she didn't present herself as their new leader or prophet. A suit or a robe does not make a servant of God. The gates were open, the house silent. Some say she used her vast network and wealth to flee the country, seeking refuge on a distant coast. But the locals who live by the river, they tell a different story. They say she simply went back to the place she truly belonged. She slipped back into the dark, murky water, leaving her human life behind, and returned to the only kingdom that would still have her, the one where everyone has scales and no one has a soul. Thanks for watching. If this story captivated you, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the shadows. See you next time.